Nothing important. Hello, everyone.
Hello!
Happy New Year!
Welcome to
Happy New
Nothing
Year!
Important.
Happy
to
New
see you.
Year and a late happy Christmas because we missed you over Christmas. So sorry. I've just been running around waiting to get into this new flat. And as you can hear, I'm now in a very echoey, large place. So I'm going to try and speak quietly and less
You
often.
sound fine. You sound
Okay.
fine. You sound fine.
Good,
And I
good.
want to say, yes, Happy New Year to everyone in the comments. It's nice, lovely to see you all.
Yes,
Graham,
Happy New Year. Yes.
You're back on Twitter.
I know.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
it's really
3 years,
good.
I think. 3 years.
3
you were off.
years. Yeah,
Was it that
3
long?
years.
Oh my gosh, that's
I had to look at your last tweet and I thought, 3 years? That's insane, isn't it?
It was right after the mess we're in started, isn't it? So it was almost 3 years. It was closing in on 3 years. Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Well,
it was like the second episode of the mess we're in, where you were like, "I just got banned from Twitter."
Yeah. Oh, really? Wow, that's interesting. I'll tell you a funny thing. When I got banned from Twitter, all media outlets were delighted to report it, you know. But when I got back...
It was a banner on CNN. It made like the ticker.
Was it? Did it really? That's hilarious.
And you're not even very famous in North America. I mean, no offense or anything. I know you're very famous in the UK.
No,
you're not as
what
famous
do you
in
mean?
North America.
I'm quite impressed. I'm quite impressed with that. I'm very happy with that. Between that and going on Alex Jones's dating list, it's been quite a banner year for me. But but yeah, none of these publications that reported me being thrown off reported me coming back. So as far as their readers are concerned, I'm still banned, you know. But it's been really great. I've got so much material that was seen by my 16,000 subscribers on the Substack, but you know, was never really shared widely beyond that. Even people on our side don't tend to share me. A few people do, but most of the big names don't. And to be able to just get those links out there to, you know, what is it, nearly 600,000 people is just great, you know.
Yes, and it's great for all of us. Not, you know, it's great for all of us, isn't it? Because you just it's getting the message out there to just more and more people.
Yeah,
huge numbers. Almost 600,000 people. You know, other than J.K. Rowling, that is the largest social media point of distribution of information now. It would seem is your Twitter account. So you know, use it to boost the wonderful people who need boosting. And
absolutely.
So many other people got undeaded as well. It was like the Walking Dead all Christmas on Twitter. So many wonderful people came back from the dead.
And because I think we've said before, haven't we? Like a lifetime ban is such an insane idea. You know, like like a 3-month ban. Even that's huge. But that makes kind of sense, doesn't it? It's a big timeout. It's to say you've broken the rules. These are our rules. But a lifetime ban, it's actually an insane punishment. It's insane.
I don't think they're doing it anymore, though. Do you think since Elon came in, I think people are getting... I haven't seen anyone get a permanent suspension at all since Elon came in. I've seen short-term suspensions more along the lines of what Facebook does, which is like if you grind against this topic that they don't want you to talk about, you just get these like short-term suspensions all the time, but you never get kicked off the platform. And I'm wondering if that's going to end up being the way of Twitter. Is that... I
don't know. I think I've still seen a few women get permanently banned recently, but it is possible that
I've seen that.
You know, it takes time for the message to get through. I would like to see an actual, you know, I would like to see it written down. I would like to see an update to the terms and conditions where misgendering is taken away, because Twitter has hampered us so much in forcing the conversation, in forcing how people speak. And you know, it's terrible, really.
In the comments, a lot of people saying they have been suspended since the takeover.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people saying they're being hampered. Oh, and by the way, Doozer and Tiffany, hello. It's lovely to see you in the comments. So it's obviously a problem. We need to understand a clarification of what's going on. And it's really frustrating that we still can't just speak freely and openly about it.
No, we can't.
It's, you know,
I'm still very careful about what I say, because you know, like people are saying, I've still seen people get permanently suspended There might be a trickle down effect that Elon is just suddenly just randomly unbanning people. If enough people make a fuss. But at some point they'll have to clarify the terms and conditions. It'll have to settle down, and they'll have to do something.
One of the first things we need to get out there is Sam Barber's list, which I think is over 400 women who've been banned. And when you think about that, that's like 400 women and their allies who, as we all know, most of these are left-wing women. Most of these are very polite women. Most of these women don't want to hurt anybody, but they were tripped up and caught and kind of enmeshed in Twitter's rules, which are very like the kind of gulag rules you might find in an authoritarian state, in that you cannot do anything right. That's the real authoritarianism in the way Twitter used to police things. Basically, if you were an enemy, they found some way of getting you off. They did it with Fred Sargent. They did it with some of the most polite people.
I know,
yeah, go on.
Like this fight that Fred Sargent is having with that weird bloke, like Joseph, somebody like this, who's unbelievably rude and just all sorts of accusations, like totally mad accusations, and just really, really appalling things that he's saying. And he's just saying it. And like Fred got banned again, but then he did come back again the next day. It's still,
but I think that kid is he's swimming around thinking the rules are still the same. He doesn't realize there's a new sheriff in town, and like he thinks he can do what all of these. Sorry, I'm going to turn off WhatsApp because it keeps making sounds. But he thinks he can do what all these people have been doing for years, which is unleashing the most appalling abuse on women and gay people, and getting away with it because he's on the right side.
Yes.
But the best thing that happened, the absolute best thing that happened, was the thing is, J.K. Rowling won't sue people willy-nilly on her own behalf, because this guy called for her to be burnt at the stake, or said he would find a way of burning her at the stake, and she said she ignored it. But as soon as he went after Fred, she latched onto it and said, she seems very serious about contacting her lawyers, and I don't think she can make a threat like that without following through with it. So I have a feeling that in not so long, maybe next week, we're going to see the most abject apology from this guy.
Yeah, and we see it again and again. These are men who are furious with people for saying that people have boundaries, that women and gay people have boundaries. And what does he do? He protects his tweets because he has boundaries. And it's just again and again and again you see it. Like people who don't want to afford women the privacy of actually being naked in a space where there are no men, who just protect their tweets because they're like, oh no, nobody's allowed to even actually see what I'm saying. It's just, I mean, we've said it before. It's an incredibly hypocritical movement. Anyway, so Graham, you have you got a list of scores to settle that you were going to?
Well, yes. I've unfortunately, I had a meeting with my friend Mick Nugent at Christmas, and he said he was asked. He said a very true thing. He said, "You're a comedy writer, so you have an advantage over people. So just bear that in mind when you speak to people." And I said, "Sure," and he was saying, I love Mick. He was saying, because he's such a humanitarian above everything. He's like, Nicola Sturgeon is a human being and stuff. And it's like, but when it comes to politicians who are endangering women's lives, I think you're allowed to be, you're allowed to blaze a little bit. You're allowed to let your anger guide your typing fingers every so often, because these are very, very high stakes. And, Nicola Sturgeon is literally going to put women in danger, and if we can't attack, I mean, we can certainly attack the ideas and so on. But again, Nicola Sturgeon doesn't allow people to even address the ideas. She just silences debate. One guy who went to the protest outside Holyrood, she said he should be ashamed of himself for
Oh, We got a glitch. We're glitching out.
Yeah, we have. I was wondering if it was me. I was like, no, it's Graham.
Standing with
Okay.
feminine.
Oh,
Sorry
you
about
glitched
that. I
out for a
lost.
second there, Grant.
Yeah, I think I lost my signal for a sec. Hopefully that won't happen.
You're back
again.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Nicholas Sturgeon.
What people don't understand is there's no volume low enough for people in talking about this. You know, I just got off the phone with Bill Bailey, who said in an interview that he was baffled by my stance on all this, and I said to him, you know, like, how are you baffled? I mean, we're talking about children being mutilated. We're talking about women losing their livelihoods. How are you baffled that I'm getting involved in this? And more importantly, why aren't you involved in it? You know, why aren't you taking the pressure off people like me?
It's an odd thing to say, isn't it? It's not like it was 5 years ago. You know, it's like I've kind of stopped making the arguments now. When people say to me, well, you know, why do you believe that women should have single-sex bases? I'm like, I'm done with this. I've made all the arguments. That's fine. Just look them up. And Bailey, he should. I mean, he must know what the arguments are. It's not that he can't be baffled. Why? It's just like saying, why are people? I'm baffled why people talk about politics. I mean, that's. I mean, that's insane. It's an insane stance.
The important aspect to it is that you know, Bill has had to know that whenever he says things like that, he helps paint the picture that I'm just kind of being recreationally, you know, cruel to people, and it's not inaccurate. I am literally trying to fight for kids who are. Did
he get it?
You know,
this is a filthy. If you say
he said he'd signed the J.K. Rowling. He said he signed the J.K. Rowling petition. So I like, you know, I want to say this publicly as many places as I can. Bill has said he'll sign that petition. I've asked him to send me a notification when he does so, and he hasn't sent it yet. So we'll see. But I don't see how Bill could object to a petition defending a woman from death and rape threats. I don't see how he could do that. So why not?
It's a difficult argument to make, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a deep sense that anyone who gets involved in this is somebody who just wants to perpetuate these nasty culture wars. That this is just such a nasty debate. No one should be talking about it. Well, the strange thing about wars is that they have to be fought. Somebody has to fight to put these fires out. You know, I'm sick to death of this battle. I swear to God. But we have to do it. You know. I kind of accidentally stepped up a little more than I might have intended to if I had known how severe the consequences would be. I don't regret my decision, but it's a fight that has to be fought. And that doesn't mean we're trying to make the fight go on longer. It's the exact fucking opposite. We want this stuff to stop. And when people say things, I've been told directly to my face by someone who was moderately sympathetic to my view, to our side, but who was like, I just don't get it. I don't understand why you want to talk about this. The idea is like, that's gross and scary. Just make it go away and pretend it's not happening. And when I say rebuttal is like tens of thousands of children are having their genitals mutilated and they're being sterilized and their bodies are being harmed and women's spaces are being completely taken away. And they just look at you like, I don't get it. It's just an ugly topic. That's so scary to me. And it makes me realize human beings just don't, I don't know. This is just like a massive vulnerability in the human brain that is being completely hacked by assholes.
Very
it makes
good.
Me despair a little bit that we have to do this. You know,
that would be a good name. That would be a good name for a book about this period. Hacked by assholes.
Hacked by assholes. It is a hack. This is a vulnerability.
You're absolutely right.
People, you know, on the internet, everyone's looking for vulnerabilities. Everybody's looking for a way in. This is a vulnerability. You know, the left turns their critical thinking off when you use the word trans. So charlatans throw the word trans out there. You know, the left turns their brain off when they see there's an ugly, messy culture war debate. Well, guess what? People just run into it. You know, this is just an obvious vulnerability in progressive minds that's being taken over. You know,
people are talking about it now. In fact, so much so that I think that we've got to a stage where the term GC doesn't. I mean, it's kind of too broad now. You know, I see that there's so many people who have now seen it that we're going back to sort of factions like, you know, left-wing men, radical feminists, right-wing people, and I think that's great because you know the radical feminists who've been shouting about this for probably the longest. Well done. You've
Yeah.
raised the issue. You've raised the issue. But that's it now. Other people have seen it, and other people have different ideas and different ways of expressing themselves, and
Yes.
just also different ideas about gender. Like the right wing, who have seen the fight, they like gendered roles. I mean, this is like massively broadly speaking.
Yeah, with a
but
broad scope.
You can't. And I think I think this year maybe we'll see people going back to their roots in terms of how they what they actually believe in. Everyone, pretty much, lots of people, lots of different groups believe that men can't be women, but within that you've got lots of different sort of thinking models, and I think that's okay. That's a good thing. That's what you want, really. You want lots of different thinking models, because otherwise, like, life would be boring.
Yeah,
and you don't know which ones, and you don't know what's going to be right or wrong. You can make predictions at the beginning of the year. Some of them are going to be right, some of them you're going to be completely wrong on. So I think this year maybe this is what we will see. That it's out there. People know what's happening now. Nobody has an excuse like, oh, I've never heard of this. Everyone has heard of it. And you've got the people who are prepared to speak about it, and you've got the people who are not.
Let me go back to
the little asterisk there. We're still a year behind in North America, but go on. Yeah.
I just wanted to go back a little bit to what I was saying about my friend in Dublin telling me to go easy on people a little bit more. But of course, the first thing I do when I get back on is I go to war with Victoria Corrin because of the two guests she had on, a married couple who described themselves as queer. She said I was digging into her contestants' history. I wasn't. I knew about these people before they appeared on the show. We all knew about them because it's such an insulting thing to do for a straight couple. Not only to call themselves queer, but also to wear, like, the woman wears earrings with the word faggot on them. Now, what has possessed these people to think that they can use that kind of slur as a decoration, But anyway, I was reading the Victoria Corrin. I was thinking, was Victoria Corrin always like this? And I found an old piece she did where she was just exulting in the harassment being faced by Jenny Murray. And she was apologizing for a piece that was written about Julie Burchill. And that's what contained the most revealing line. She said, and I quote, "If I had been here, I would have written about something jolly, like the Queen's shoes or pelicans," right? And I thought, yeah, exactly. And that's the problem. That's the problem. These fake feminists who cannot address the most important question facing women today, which is, are we going to have, as part of the category of women, a few men? Is that going to happen? Are we going to allow that to happen? And people like Julie Burchill and Jenny Murray said no, and they both suffered because of it. So someone like Victoria Corrin is pure establishment, and really, I know I say this a lot, but she should be ashamed of herself, really.
I think feminism, like the word woman, has kind of lost a lot of meaning. You can attach whatever meaning that you want to it nowadays. What matters is your action.
May I use that to make a point about something? A lot of people don't like the term GC, and what we might do as part of our mission to make language mean the things it actually means is simply call GC feminism. We don't, like, that's what gender critical feminism is. It's just feminism. A real feminism on no account places the feelings of men above the safety, privacy, and dignity of women. So why do we just? Graham. Why do we? Yeah. Cheers to you. So why?
Happy New Year to that.
Why do we just?
I
call
can't
it
choose
feminism?
you guys because it's still early here, but. I see your broader point, Graham. But of course, there's a lot of people who I have my issues around the term gender critical, just because my views around gender expression. I understand, in my view, that people take their gender expression to heart, and it means a lot to them. So it's not meaningless, but it's meaningless in the terms of legal categories and in terms of human categories. But it's not. It has meaning to people, in their own personal sense. A lot of women just would feel sick to their stomach if they had to wear a pink dress, and a lot of men would feel sick to their stomach if they had to wear, burly clothes. So I hold on my personal view on the term gender critical. I use it because it broadly encapsulates what our side in this debate is, and I'm happy to use a term that more or less gets the message across on where I stand on this. But I have my own, my own personal views around the word gender, in that it has nothing to do with biological sex, but it's something that can still be looked at and talked about and discussed and analyzed. But
well, yes, of course.
But I also come at this from a point of view of being around many transsexuals and trans people, and a lot of compassion and sympathy for trans people. So I need a term that describes my view that is very much in as much sympathy as I can humanly have with women and with every other stakeholder in this, but also has compassion for people who experience distress around their gender expression and mental health disorders.
I think that's fair enough. And also remember, the protected belief is a gender critical one, so you kind of got to hang on to it.
I see.
When the term is, now I saw somebody describing every single person who doesn't believe that men can be women as gender critical, but that's not true, because
that's yes.
You've got to understand gender as the sort of meaning, the sort of the stereotypes around what are sort of ascribed to men and ascribed to women, and be critical of that. Whereas a lot of, the sort of Matt Walsh follower type of person certainly isn't, they're absolutely, my wife can't open jars. Although that's probably true in a way, because men and women are different strengths. But in a, sort of, that's a sort of point of pride to him that, he's the man of the house, basically.
Yeah, but I have to say, that's why I stopped watching Divorce Story after the first 10 minutes. Because what's his name, the guy in Divorce Story, Artie? Do you know his name, the actor?
Who's also in
Story?
Marriage Story. Sorry,
yeah,
Marriage Story.
Yeah, with Adam Driver. Yeah,
Adam Driver. Yeah, and it starts off by listing all the things about him and all the things about her. And the thing about him is that he can't open jars and has to hand it to his wife to open. And that was, to me, as dumb as the Matt Walsh moment, because it's like Adam Driver. He's like a giant.
He's a giant man. Yeah.
He's got a huge.
No, because actually. That makes less sense than the Matt Walsh one, because actually, men are in fact stronger than women. There is, that isn't that the Marriage Story one is an almost pretense that this isn't the case, which like we've said many times that I've in the past I've tried to argue that there were no differences between men and women. When I was much younger, because acknowledging that there were some differences meant that it's used against you in a much broader sense, and but I've got past that now. You have to accept what the reality of things are, and that's okay. We don't have to pretend that we are actually men, because that again, that positions men as the sort of default human, and
you know what, Helen,
be like
it's always down to follow reality, like be careful of ideology. And you will never. It's again. I watched Glen Ross the other night, which is still a fantastic film. And Pacino says at one point, "Tell the truth. It's easier to remember." And that's the point. If you stick to reality, if you let ideology perhaps influence you and perhaps help your arguments in some cases and whatever, fine. But if it takes the wheel, then we find ourselves in very dark places, And my friends in this fight have always been people like you, Artie, you, Helen, and Stella O'Malley, and a bunch of other people who are regularly attacked by our own side because they veer off the true road as far as they're concerned. And in the end, I think we're a community, us three and a few other people are a community of people who just put people ahead of ideology.
I think this is what I was sort of saying earlier. I think this notion of our side now has become too big, and I think this year that might sort of fracture back to you've got the sort of the core radical feminists with their belief, and then you've got other people, and you've got other people. And I think that's good. That means there are that many people who have now realised what's going on, that you can actually fight in sort of your own way without having to be sort of hitched with other people whose sort of core beliefs you may disagree with. And that's good. I think that's a good thing. Another thing that I was thinking about this is, to be fair, it was a friend of mine who actually said it, and it was a bit of a light bulb moment in terms of reality, is that actually, I think when we make the arguments that we make, we genuinely believe them. It is the truth. I don't believe a man can be a woman, and I absolutely believe that women should have their single-sex spaces, and I don't believe that kids should be medicalized. I think these are fairly basic truths for me.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the other side, going back to what you were saying about ideology, they don't necessarily believe their own arguments, which is why then they can't necessarily attack our arguments as, really. So they have to accuse us of hate. So it has to be hate. It has to be coming from a hateful position, simply because their arguments, they don't necessarily believe them. I mean, who really believes that a man can be a woman? Nobody really. What they believe is that it's a linguistic argument, isn't it? That the word woman should now be changed to not mean adult human female, but to include anyone who says.
That's right. It's a linguistic argument in the service of maintaining allegiance to the tribe. The tribe says we have to be nice to trans women. Trans women, therefore, must be women because the tribe has said so. And you've got everyone within the tribe has different ways of squaring that circle. Some people just say it's a courtesy about words. Some people just say it's a metaphor. Some people say biology's a mess anyways, so let's just pretend it never matters anyways because the whole thing is some wishy-washy spectrum. There's all these different ways people try to square the circle, but a lot of people just ignore it altogether. So every time they do argue at us, what do we get? Ad hominems to death. And it's always ad hominems about us being on the wrong political tribe. You're on the far right. You're a fascist. You're a Nazi. These are political movements, not scientific arguments. These are not arguments about different views.
Also,
these are all political. You're on the wrong political tribe. It's all you ever hear over and over and over again. And they even say, oh, you say something that sounds like somebody on the right wing said something similar one time. How dare you? Which is insane. Also, which means you can't ever agree with anything anyone on the right said.
But can I also add to that? It's very revealing that they think that this is a powerful point to make, because they know that we are not on the right. They absolutely know. They know that it's a terrible insult to call us right wing or far right or whatever they have. Yeah. So that's why they deploy it. They wouldn't say it to Matt. They wouldn't say it to
people
Matt
on the
Walsh.
right aren't embarrassed to be on the right.
You're right wing. Do you know what I mean? To Matt Walsh or Tucker
and you
Carlson.
Be like,
So they know it's not true, which is why they use it. Hey, can we speak a little bit about the shocking case of the trans man who murdered his father and injured his sister? Because I think it's thrown up a lot of interesting things, including how the media, by going along with this stuff, is really confusing people as to what's actually going on. I'm sure you've all seen, like me, the extraordinary footage of him being brought out of his smirking, and someone pointed out very like in the film Sunset Boulevard, when the what's her name of the woman who played the woman in Sunset Boulevard?
Right, I'm ready for my close-up. Was it Betty
I'm
Davis?
ready for my.
No.
No, it wasn't Betty Davis. Someone will say. Someone's probably already said. But it wasn't Betty Davis. I think it was someone more from the old days of kind of silent movies, a little bit more.
It is narcissism, isn't it? It's the
it
photograph me.
Gloria Swanson. It was Gloria Swanson. Yes,
well
the kind of, and also all the lights on them and this smirk all the way down. It was exactly the last scene in.
It was. I'm ready for my close-up. Right. That's what she said. Wasn't it?
Yeah. And then again, also the reports originally, two sisters. Like they said it was a home invasion, and the father was killed, and the two sisters were injured, and then you find out, oh, actually they don't have two. It's not two sisters. It's one young man who's gone through surgery, and a woman. Actually, I don't even know if he's gone through surgery. I do know that he said on a YouTube interview that he has never experienced an orgasm, right? And I remember,
Which
one of the
would seem
things.
to imply that he's on the very, very young. He's on what do you call the new regime, the new medical regimen, which involves puberty blockers, which is what we seem to be suggesting is that he
Yeah.
seems to be the new trans where he was puberty blocked before he even reached puberty. Sorry, go on. Yeah.
Yes. Exactly, and he is, and like people love saying, trying to cast us as paedophiles by saying, "Why are you interested in young people's ability to have sex and have orgasms?" It's another thing that's thrown at us all the time. But here we have a guy, right, who is mentally ill, very probably because he has never fucking had an orgasm or a normal life, and now he's killed his father. So this idea that this is a kind of consequence-free road that kids can embark on. Hopefully, it's stories like this will bring it to an end. Anyway, sorry, I've been taken over on this conversation. Anyone else?
No.
Any observations?
I think.
I'll be looking closely at this.
Let's go, Artie. Artie said less in this episode so far. Go ahead, Artie.
Oh no, I was just saying. As for the case in New York, I want to hear more about it. I want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
It's certainly the initial details are quite troubling, but I don't know what to make of it. I don't know what to make of it at all so far, other than.
Oh really? What's confusing you about the issue? Do you not think there's enough information in to make?
No, we don't know the relevance of his trans status pertaining to his relationship with his father. We don't know what his mental health state is overall. There's just some interesting stuff there. There's a lot of red flags. There's a lot of stuff to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Helen?
I was going to say what Artie says. I mean, we don't need to see somebody murdering their dad to say that there's a massive problem with putting kids on a path where they are inorgasmic for life and they've never experienced sexual function. I mean, that stands alone for me as a huge fucking problem. As you say, this is a massive consequence. It's a huge part of adult life. It's a huge part of forming relationships. Just this hand waving, like because you look okay and you've got a hole that men can fuck and that's okay, is a terrible one. Just
and
this idea that
to your genitals, you can't have a penis genitals. You have to have the. But then we don't care if it works for you. We just care that it looks like the thing that we want it to look like, which is so unbelievably homophobic. I can't nail this down enough. When you are operating on a boy's genitals to make them superficially resemble girls' genitals, it's because that boy is going to be having intersex with other men when he grows up to be an adult, and you want it to look like heterosexual sex and make the gayness part go away.
Yeah, but it's also
and you don't even care if he gets any experience out of it.
No, but it's also massively misogynistic, isn't it? The idea that women don't really, it's just lie back and think of England. What do they? Well, we don't care. It's just, it's not that they don't get any pleasure out of it. It's just a whole, it's all for men. It's
one of the funniest things. One of the funniest things I saw online wasn't I don't think it had anything to do with this fight, but it was some guy saying something like, where did this myth that women have orgasms come from? I have been with several women, he said, and none of them have had orgasms. And someone wrote after it, I wouldn't admit that if I had a gun to my head.
Hilarious. I love it.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But it's not even that they think it through to that end. They really just want to win the argument. It's very like the short-term thinking of our friend JJ, who went after Fred Sargent. He just wants to say the thing that will cause most pain in the shortest character count possible. What did he say? I don't engage with scumbags. He said that about James Dreyfus, who is a beloved sitcom star. who's been horribly treated by the media since he signed a letter asking Stonewall to bring down the toxicity of the debate. And Fred Sargent, who is literally a gay hero, who was there every night at Stonewall, who was an out gay man who joined the police force and affected great change within it, and also helped coordinate the first New York City Pride March. How on earth anyone can think that's a good look by attacking someone like him is really beyond me.
He's not come out of it very well, has he? I don't think so.
I think he's in a lot of trouble. He doesn't like. I believe David Paisley's having trouble finding work as well, and I think that this is because like, if you get involved in this debate like I did, you get attacked whatever side you're on. And now this guy JJ Thingy is he's just got all these screen grabs of him being appalling to these people, and they're going to follow him around for the rest of his life. There's a bit of me that feels a bit sorry for him, just a tiny bit of me. I just don't think I know what it's like.
I think I see what you're saying there. You can get caught up in the sort of argument and the adulation, and you can say something in the spur of the moment, or you see people say, do this at the spur of the moment, where you're like, that is just, the hubris around just being sort of cheered on. It's it is. It's terrible. But he's been brought up by the internet.
He's been brought up by the internet. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, Helen, go on.
Well, I thought in a bit of more of an upbeat manner, I wanted to celebrate Elaine Miller and her Merkin.
Oh yes. Well, listen. I've got a lovely news, which is Elaine's going to come on the next mess, hopefully, and we're going to have a chat about it. Yeah, she couldn't do it tonight because she's got family stuff. But yes, so we will have her soon.
Well, because it's interesting, isn't it? Because I've seen quite a lot of people trying to pretend, and there's no way that it isn't a pretense, that there were victims of sexual abuse and children there who were frightened, and this is why I thought the protest was, because when I first saw it I was quite shocked, but then I realized what a really clever protest it was on a couple of levels, which is it really just brings it sort of front and center what the problem is. This idea that it's all fine, it's just a bit of bureaucracy, and people don't want to talk about the differences between men and women and the actual problems with men being now allowed into women's spaces. And it's obvious, isn't it? She lifts her skirt and she brings genitals right back into it. It's like, no, this is what a woman is, and it isn't a penis, which is a problem. If a man was flashing in the gallery, that would be a problem because of all the history behind it. A woman flashing a bit of teddy bear fur with pockets, it turns out. She made it and put pockets in it, is very, very different. And we all know it's very, very different. And so she's bringing it back and saying, no, this is the problem. You want to pretend that there's no, the genitals, anyone who says anything about genitals is a problem and there's no difference. There is a massive difference, and this is it. It was also very, very clever, I thought.
Of course, yes, and if you compare it to the reaction that Jordan Gray got when he appeared on Channel 4 and showed off I always like to remind people of this, the breasts he grew so he could masturbate so he could fill them up while masturbating. That's all it is. It's nothing more than that, kids. Was absolutely fine, and it was it was actually, in fact, I think the head of Channel 4 said it was beautiful to see this variation in bodies, but Elaine lifts up and reveals a fake fanny, and they suddenly pretend that it's the most shocking thing in the world to see a naked person, and I mean, it just goes to show the absolute cynicism of these people.
Yeah, definitely.
By the way, I've got some very interesting stuff on Picklebee coming up soon. believe me, you're going to enjoy it. I'll tell you off the air so you guys can both enjoy it. But yes, Pickleby is one of the trans activists who the fucking SNP who voted the bill in stood up and applauded.
Oh yeah, up in the gallery there. Yeah.
Believe me, they're not going to be applauding after this.
And also, this was the person who infiltrated a WhatsApp group, right, and printed loads of screenshots. And I saw lots of trans activists or lots of people celebrating this, saying, "Oh, look how terrible these women are," and it's really interesting, isn't it? That again, here you have women who are defending their right to be in their own space, and somebody like a bloke comes along and exposes it because he doesn't want these women to be able to have these private conversations, and it's and all these people are reading them, saying, "Oh yeah, this is terrible, terrible," and you're like, nobody should be reading these. These are private conversations. This is like anyone who reads them. This is like the Twitter version of looking at private pictures of someone. Like
people sent me.
Nobody should be reading this stuff.
People on our side again sent me a private WhatsApp message from Stella O'Malley, and my first thought was, why the hell are you sending private messages from someone to me? You know, that is none of my business. It's none of your business. You know.
No, I agree. I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So where were we? So we've done a few things. Anything else popped up recently that people would like to talk about? Let us know in the comments as well.
Well, maybe not necessarily, recently, but I think let's say, we've had a whole year again of fighting. And I think one of the big things that's come out of this year for me that I've seen is there's a huge, a huge number of people have now seen the issue. It is absolutely mainstream now, isn't it? Everyone knows what's going on. Everyone knows what if you say the word like trans, most people inwardly sigh. Because they don't want to be brought into the conversation, but everyone has heard of it. Everyone has heard of it.
I'm sure everyone had some awkward Christmases over this. I certainly did. I'm
not as. I mean, I know it's definitely better. It's definitely better. One of the brilliant things about being on Twitter is I don't see the replies from nasty people. Way out my settings. I only see my supporters getting into debates with them. And the brilliant thing about watching this is that all like in the old days there were a few people stepping in and making the arguments, but now everyone knows the arguments. Everyone knows their position. There is a sure. I'll tell you what I think the biggest difference is. There's a sure-footedness now. The shaming tactics aren't working. The confusing terms aren't working. These people have been, kind of, what's the word? They've been kind of made stronger by simply really delving into the subject themselves and understanding what's going on. And it's great to see. It means that I'll be able to tweet a few more things about, guided by voices and comedy movies and all that sort of shit,
Yes, I think you're right, Graham. I think in one way, this is what I was saying earlier. All the arguments have been made. We have all of the good answers now, and I see the other side have also got their script that they follow, but it's not as good. It's not a sort of believable one. It is, as you were saying. Oh, look at these you retweeted this person, or you follow this person, or right wing, blah blah blah.
Ad hominem.
They're not solid sort of arguments that people can actually believe in. So
and on the solid front. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Eddie.
No. That's it, really.
Well, on the solid front, we're really seeing the medical establishment start to turn around too. When the NHS issued guidance reminding everyone that gender dysphoria is a mental health condition, not a body oopsie, and that the first line should be to deal with people's mental health issues if the child is expressing distress around their gender, because it is a mental health condition. Every single trans person has a mental health condition. That's just a matter of objective fact. This is a mental health situation on the medical front and not just a magic body oopsie. And then when Sweden, I think it was Sweden that just announced they're completely jettisoning WPATH's guidance. They've had it. The eunuch archives were the last straw for Sweden, and they said this group, it's got to go. You know, they've positioned themselves as this global authority, this very, very serious medical outfit, and they've just completely they've bitten off more than they can chew. They pushed the limit too far, and I thought it was really extraordinary when Sweden announced that they're completely abandoning WPATH's recommended guidances. And we keep seeing little regions within Australia and New Zealand and various levels of governments throughout the world announcing that they're getting rid of this ridiculous gender affirmation model, which is basically where the doctors collude with the patient in their delusion instead of treating it like a mental health condition. And that's just wonderful to see everything going back to that. This is really, I think, is a big reinforcement for our side to have the heavy authority of medical science finally coming around to our side. The one exception, of course, being the United States, where stupid magazines like Scientific American are shitting the bed on a daily basis. I think Graham highlighted, was it The Lancet that published a study about monkeypox? Monkeypox affects males and females extraordinarily differently. And of course, monkeypox is an epidemic within the gay community, so it's mostly gay men. And they published a study, it's a sexually transmitted disease among gay men, that was supposed to be about the differences between monkeypox in men and women, but all the women were men. Gay transsexuals, homosexual transsexuals.
I saw that. Incredible. Really incredible. Well, it's almost like they're taking the piss out of themselves.
Yeah,
and that's not helping homosexual transsexuals. That's not helping females in any way. This study is not helping all the people. It's virtue signaling to help. You're not helping homosexual transsexuals by indulging that they're literally female when it comes to medical science. We need to know that they're male in order to treat them properly. For fuck's sake, Sure, if you're at a dinner party with one, you can be polite to them and call them she, her if you want. But that doesn't mean when you're in medical science and you're treating them, you literally pretend they're not male and ignore all the medical important things you need to know about the fact that they're male. Crazy. Sorry, I'm going to lose my mind.
Yeah, no, you're right.
It's so true. And today as well, I saw a video by an Australian guy who pointed out, and it's something we pointed out many times, and it's almost a cliche to bring it up, but I do think it's important to kind of, in case anyone looking at this is new to the argument, when people demand that you use she, her, or he, him, or whatever preferred pronouns, they're actually trying to control how you behave when you're not in their presence. And that's the interesting thing about it. You do not say, when you're talking to someone, she or her, you don't say these things. You only say it when you're talking to other people. So the idea of preferred pronouns is actually a form of social control used by people who, really need to be told, hang on a sec, you do not get to say how I use my language. You do not get to say how I think about you. You don't get to do that, because that is authoritarianism,
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's not helping the patients. If a parent has a daughter who's experiencing ROGD and then the parent's going around referring to their son all the time, even when the daughter isn't there, that's not good. They need to understand they still have a daughter with a mental health condition. And they may think that helping that daughter with a mental health condition by referring to her as he in her presence is one thing. But when they start literally believing it, they're ignoring the cause of what's going on with their daughter. It's not helping. I know these parents are in distress too, but they have to understand that a daughter with ROGD isn't literally a son. It's just one possible treatment pathway is to call them their son, and I don't even think that's a good one, as we all know.
But I think most people do know that, which is why they have to fight so hard to get everyone else to affirm that. I think we've said so many times it requires constant maintenance, constant vigilance. It's an exhausting idea that you have to constantly maintain the pretense around it by forcing everyone around you to bend to your will. It's the same as, with your body as well. It's constant application of hormones. It's not just one time and it's done. It's every day. You have to take the drugs to keep it up. And it's the same with the pronouns and the talk around it. It's constant. It's exhausting. And that's
Well,
why
again,
it's so
Nobody
militant.
signed up for this. Yeah.
Always tell the truth.
Yeah.
It's easier to remember. You know,
Definitely that.
It's one
Definitely
of the
that.
greatest lines in dramatic history, I think. You know, because it's actually a beautiful edict that you can live by. Unfortunately, it's said by Richard Roma in The Thing, who was the biggest liar who ever existed. But it's still a good line.
Well, maybe he spoke from experience.
All right. Well, listen. Oh yeah, Artie, go on.
Oh no, I forgot what I was going to say. It's okay.
Oh, okay. So listen, we're coming up to 50 minutes. As I say, we'll hopefully have Elaine on soon. Maybe if
that would be great.
Yeah. And I'd love to speak to her more about what led her up to doing it and why she decided on that particular protest. So look out for that. And in the meantime, still early in the new year, so I hope you're still relaxing and enjoying it. And we'll see you very soon.
And Happy New Year, everyone. Happy New Year, guys. Lovely to see everyone in the comments. And lovely to see
Happy
you
New
guys.
Year.
It's been a lovely 2022, and the trajectory is forward. To 2023, let's see some changes take place in the United States more, and let's keep the positive momentum going in the UK. Yay.
Yeah, definitely.
Cheers, guys.
Goodbye.
Cheers.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.